Welcome back to Sound 101. I'm Andrew from Deity Microphones, and on this episode, we're going to show you how $100 of accessories can turn your video microphone to sounding really, really good. A couple of weeks back, Steve and I actually did a whole video where we did $200 video kits that had to capture all the different audio needed on set with only $200. Well, a lot of you guys down in that comment section below asked, how does it sound? We want to hear it. This episode is actually going to rectify that. We have went out and purchased all the things needed so you guys can actually hear now exactly what those kits sound like and the great amazing audio you can get out of a simple video microphone. The first thing we're going to do is set up our camera. This is step number one. We got to figure out where we're actually going to shoot our interview from, and that's going to be our spot. So we're actually going to be using nothing but super affordable gear today. So this is not going to be some super expensive tripod. If you bought a cheaper tripod, you can definitely get to this height. We want to make this accessible so that if you're setting up in your YouTube studio, or if you're out on the job and you have nicer gear, you can replicate everything we're doing today. So I've got a little 50mm lens. I've set this up at eye level. It's a cheap lens. You can get this at any kind of camera store. You can pick them up for about $50. So now step number two, now we've got our camera, we're going to position our key light. You notice I'm actually not setting up the microphone first, because there's other things that have to come before it. So our key is very important because it's going to determine where everything else in the whole set is going to go. So we've got our key light here, and we're going to set this up. That looks very nice, and when we get talent in there, we'll make some adjustments, but we're going to get a rough estimate of where this light actually gets placed. The other side is where we're actually going to set our microphone. So step number three, we're actually now going to finally start setting up our audio, and what we're going to do first is grab our microphone and our stand. Now this is the stand that we used in that episode. It's about $40, give or take, if it's on sale. And the key to this stand is the fact that it does boom out, but more importantly, it comes with that 1/4 mount, which our video mic happens to have. If your video microphone though does not have a 1/4 mount, like this one, which has actually technically a 3/8 mount, you can use a 1/4 to 3/8 bushing screw and insert it. So our first step is we're actually going to screw this right on, and it doesn't really matter how it ends up, because remember, this whole pole, once we loosen it, can rotate. See, perfect stand. What we're gonna do is we're gonna extend it out. Now, I always like to extend the smallest section of my boom arm first, so that if I need to extend more, I'm not having to walk further out there. I can stand closer to my stand and secure everything if I need to get a little bit more length, because it's right there closer to me. Now I'm actually going to open up my boom. I've got an empty sandbag. It doesn't weigh a whole lot. I don't need a full sandbag, but the 1 pound weight that the fabric does offer is perfect, as you can see, for balancing out this pole as it is right now. Now I'm actually going to position this so that one leg is actually facing the talent. I always like to do that because if a stand were to ever fall over, it's going to fall that way, this way. It's never going to fall into the talent. There's a little tip for you. So I'm going to raise it up now, and I clearly need a little bit more distance. So all I need to do, grab, drop a little bit more into my stand. And if I need to, I can also position this out, go a little bit higher, position that leg at talent, and I think that's a pretty good starting position. Now you'll notice I'm saying starting position. Same thing with my light, we're only roughing everything in. The idea is that your talent doesn't need to be there when you're setting up. What are they gonna do? Sit on their cell phone in the corner? Especially if you're interviewing someone very important, like a CEO or some kind of business owner, and they're the one hiring you. Come in, rough everything in. Once they arrive, you can sit them down, and then you're just making minor tweaks to your setup. My light, my backlight, my stand. You don't need to have them to get the basics set up. Saves you time and saves them time. Step number 5, we're actually gonna run the audio now from our microphone to our camera. Let's actually show you a couple of techniques that we're gonna use for that. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take our 3.5mm TRS cable, and we're gonna insert it, and what I can do is I can immediately secure it to the pole. What we're gonna do is we're actually gonna spin that right there. Now I'm here, I can actually take this, my slack, and again, what we're gonna do is we're gonna spin this around the pole a little bit. So I don't have any giant hooks. I have nothing for them to loop onto when they're trying to duck down and get underneath my pole. It's nice and clean. So when talent arrives, they think, wow, I'm working with a professional. Step number 6 is actually setting up the settings on your camera. There's a little EV meter down in the bottom little section of most cameras now, and it goes up to +3 and -3. Try to make sure your image, based on the way you set your iris, your shutter speed, and your ISO, you try to get roughly around that 0 mark. But this isn't a lighting course, so let's keep moving on and talk about the audio in a DSLR. What we're gonna do is actually now plug in our 3.5mm jack into our DSLR. You may need to enable sound in some DSLRs. I'm actually gonna take this and tie it around the arm of our tripod. What that allows us to do is really get a nice secure kind of thing. And if this gets tugged on, it's tugging on the arm and not the jack, so we're not actually stressing out our camera, and we're protecting the jack and making sure we don't lose audio in the middle of the shoot. So now that audio is plugged into the camera, let's dive actually into the sound settings of our camera. For Canon cameras, you're going to simply hit the menu button, and then in the menu setting, it's called sound recording. In other cameras, you can actually check your manual. Sometimes it's called sound, audio input, levels, volume. And if I dive into this, you'll notice we have manual and automatic. We're going to be using manual today because we are in full 100% control of our sound in our environment. But if you're in a setup where it's a live event, auto may actually work out better than manual. Because we're in manual, we can actually drop down to the next thing, and that is record level. And once we're in there, we can actually set this level by hitting select and going back and forth to see just how loud we want it. The goal is the person sitting down is actually going to be hitting -12 dB on your VU meter. Some cameras call this 0 VU. If you're in the Lumix system, they can only go down to -12 before going to mute. So really kind of check your manufacturer. So if you're in a VU meter system, 0 VU, or if you're in a DBFS scale, just like the Canon is, -12 dB. We're using a Canon, so we're actually going to be looking for that -12 dB. So now that we're kind of set up in here, we've actually got our audio set up, we've got our framing set up and our light set up. All we have to do now is wait for talent to arrive, and then we can do our fine tuning. Well, we have finally arrived to the last step, and that is step number 7. Talent is now on set, and it's that time that I've been talking about. We're going to fine tune everything. The first thing we're going to fine tune is our light, so we can make all of our adjustments according to that. So let's actually set that up real fast. Now I have got it set up in a position where I'm okay with it, but I think I could work it in a little bit closer to the camera so it actually gets the other side of the cheek too. And what I'm going to do there is I'm probably going to just kind of bump it over a little bit. And again, leg facing talent, super lightweight light, and the stand weighs way more than the light, so it actually feels nice and sturdy. We're good here. Now let's actually go over to the mic side. Now remember I talked about earlier we did set up a light because we were going to be talking about how the light plays into sound, and that is shadows. So I'm actually going to wave my little stand around, and I'm looking for any kind of reflections on his forehead, any kind of shadows that may be adjusting brightness across his face, but I'm not in the perfect position. I could actually be roughly around in there for my audio. Tighten this now up, and I bet I could actually rotate a little bit and come a little bit straight down. That way I'm just about 6 to 8 inches above him, and then about 3 to 4 inches in front of him. So I'm actually shooting across his chest and his mouth area, and not just into the top of his forehead. I'm also going to pay attention to my back wall to make sure I don't have any shadows from my key light spilling across this bookshelf. I don't, because what we've done is actually put another light behind the couch altogether, and that is shooting up, and that's going to wash out any possible shadows. So we've got a beautiful light set up. We have our microphone in the position, and we're now to the point where we can do a mic check with talent to confirm we're getting that -12 dB in our camera. To do that, what we're going to do is now plug in a pair of headphones into our camera. If your camera does not have headphone jack, you may need to get yourself a little audio mixer, but you really should actually get something with a headphone jack because you want to make sure what's being recorded is actually being, good audio. Because even if the mixer sounds good, if the levels in the camera are distorted, it's just distorted. I mean, there's no way around that. So what I'm going to do is put on my headphones. You would not show up to set without a monitor to view your visuals. I mean, all cameras come with them. You wouldn't show up to set without headphones either. So we've got the Halter Technicals. Still fits within our $100 budget. We are at $25 for the headphones, $10 for the cable, $45 for the stand, and there you go. You've got better audio, and let me show you exactly what I mean. Here's the before. Tell me more about what it was like to start your own business.
It was great. I mean, honestly, it was a lot of hard work that went into it, but the end result was fantastic. It resulted in my life being my life. I could do what I wanted to, work as hard as I wanted to, and I don't know, it really changed everything for me.
And here is what we're about to capture right now with this wonderful setup.
I feel like the schedule is the easiest part about it. You don't have to, it's really, you're making your own schedule every day. So every day you wake up, I can work 4 hours of overtime, I can work 10 hours of overtime, or I can just not work that day.
Well, that wraps up another video from us here at Deity Microphones. You guys now know everything you can do to get better audio with the microphones you may already have. And again, it doesn't have to be the D3. You can actually use any kind of microphones. If you like content like this and want to learn more about audio and video production, you got to hit that subscribe button, and you got to find out when we post new videos. And the only way to do that is to hit that bell for the notifications. If you want to join our mailbag episodes where we answer your questions so you, the audience, get to be involved with the production of our episodes, drop them down in that comment section below, #mailbag, and you possibly could win a vlog. I'm Andrew from Deity Microphones, and thank you for watching. Hey, if you really like content like this and you want to watch more of that kind of content literally right now, and you actually want to see this setup on a much bigger scale, check out the video right over here. We actually show you how to do a 2-person interview with a 2-boom pole setup. So click on that video and you can enjoy more techniques on how to get better audio for your interviews right now.